Welcome everyone to your guide on choosing a camera lens to capture better landscape and wildlife photography and videos. So let's dive right in. So just for some background, my name's Anthony Bonaccio and I am an amateur videographer, and I'm really passionate about capturing landscapes and wildlife and mountain environments. That's kind of the context I can provide on the videos I like to capture. Also the photos, I'll be providing samples of videos and photos from a couple different lenses I use, and just how I chose those lenses and what the pros and cons of those choices were. So, all right, so we're gonna do this in a few step process, but it's easy, it's straightforward. Step one. So step one is understanding and evaluating your needs and your goals for whatever trip you're going on. So before you buy a lens, unless you have a lens that comes with the camera you purchase, you want to decide, do I want to shoot primarily landscapes? Do I want to do wildlife photography and videography? Do I want to capture up close shots of wildflowers and insects? These are all things to consider. It's not about buying the best and most expensive camera lens, but it's about evaluating what you want to get out of a camera lens. So that's most important. So when I first started planning these trips out to Wyoming and out to Montana, I had to evaluate the scenarios I was seeking. And primarily, initially, it was capturing the vast landscapes, the mountains, the wide open plains, the rivers below the mountains, the valleys. So I was like, okay, I need a wide angle lens. So I went with a wider angle lens that can also zoom, but it can capture more of what I'm seeing. Then subsequent to that, I wanted to get more personal shots of the wildlife in those national parks and in those areas of the bison, the elk, the, what are they called, bears, and so on. So then I needed a telephoto lens, so that's what I purchased. It's all about evaluation before just buying a new camera lens that comes out because it is the best, it's the priciest. It's all about how you use the current lens you either have or the one you're going to purchase. So step number two is, what is it called? Oh yeah, camera lenses. Now there are a lot out there. Don't get overwhelmed though. You'll go to bestbuy.com or bnhphoto.com and you'll see all these lenses and you'll be like, well, what do I choose? Just to break it down, okay, I want to shoot wildlife photos. Well then you're gonna want something like that. You just want a telephoto lens. Does it have to be this big? No, you don't have to spend, this was about $2,000. You don't have to spend that for your first telephoto lens. There's some that are 100 to 200, there's 100 to 400. We can get into that later in this video when I bring you onto the laptop. Then you say, well, I don't want to shoot wildlife yet, I want to shoot landscapes. Well, then you just need a wide angle lens, and you can get one that's versatile, like the one I'm using right now to record this video is an 18 to 135 millimeter. That actually provides a ton of room for capturing vast landscapes to pinpointing just like one mountain I want to capture. It's awesome. So it's just, if you're like me and you want to capture wildlife and landscapes, you just need a wide angle and you need a telephoto. If you want to capture very personal shots of insects and flora, then you're gonna want a macro lens, which I don't have. Just piggyback on step two with evaluating camera lenses and what you want to go with. One thing to consider, especially for someone like me, if you like to hike, if you like to mountaineer, go rock climbing, whatever you like to do outside, weight is huge. Now this is tough because I might see wildlife 10 miles into a hike that I want to capture and I don't have this with me because it's heavy. It weighs, I think it's between 4 and 5 pounds. It's a lot of weight to add to your bag. Am I willing to bring it? I mean, yeah, big guns. But most of the time I just go with my 18 to 135 millimeter lens that I'm using currently. It allows me to zoom in a decent chunk, but also allows me to capture those wide landscapes that are stunning and that I want to bring home with me in my pocket. So this is something to consider, is weight. Number three, I wanted to show you guys my 18 to 135 millimeter lens that I'm currently using on my camera right now. That's not a true wide angle lens, but at 18mm it gives me a wide enough view to capture most of the mountain ranges and landscapes that I want to get. So here she is, the 18 to 135mm camera lens that I use on my Sony a6700. I used it previously on my Sony a6000. I love it. It's great. It is pretty affordable. I think I got it when it was about $600, and I bring it just about everywhere. And then at full zoom, it only gets about that long. So hand camera lens. It is compact, it's great. It's great for hiking, but it's also great just to bring about anywhere. It's a really versatile lens that I love. All right, we're back to the 18 to 135 shooting this video. So pros and cons of that lens is probably, the cons are if wildlife comes up and I don't have the telephoto lens with me, I get upset. Especially if my brother has his with him and I can't capture a cool shot and he can. It's very upsetting. Pros are, I can bring it just about anywhere on any hike just because of its lightweight. And I do like that I can go from 18mm all the way up to 135, so I can get some zoom in there. And I have captured some wildlife up close, like mountain goats, bison. Like it still has value in wildlife, just not nearly as much as a telephoto lens. So that's probably its biggest con, but the biggest pro is its lightweight, its versatility. I find more pros than cons with this lens. All right, number 4 is the telephoto lens. So this is awesome, love it. Let's go into it. So I went back to Wyoming in January with my brother. He had planned this awesome trip, appreciate you. And the main thing I wanted to get, besides us ice climbing, was wildlife photos. Just, I wanted to get really in-depth shots and features of these animals. After fighting with myself and my budget and some Best Buy credit card finessing of 0% interest over, a few months I'd pay it off, I picked up the 200 to 600 Sony E-mount telephoto lens, and I don't regret it. This lens, why it's so great for wildlife is, one, the wildlife is far away, so it's safe, you're safe, and you can get up to 600mm to bring it real close. It's a 5.6 to 6.3 f-stop, so you get a nice bokeh background, so it's really just focusing in on the animal. And then on top of that, the zoom, despite this being heavy, the zoom is internal, so I just zoom from 200 to 600mm. That's the best. You don't realize that's the best until it's on, your camera's on the tripod or you're shooting like this, and you just, you're back and forth from 200 to 600 and a quarter of a spin with your hand. It's awesome. It has some features right here that I don't use. I don't know if it's gonna capture it. There we go. Basically, you can go from autofocus to manual focus. You can go from a full to 10 meters, which that will capture. It's essentially saying I don't want to capture anything up to 10 meters. I can get into that later. Beside the point, don't want to get technical. Wildlife, this is your go-to superstar. And yeah, it's heavy. It's heavy. It's about 4.5 pounds. But if you can manage carrying it into the backcountry on a long hike too, especially if you're camping, I mean, it's got some value in the images it can capture. It's about $2,000, maybe $2,200, somewhere between $200 and $2,200. But for the memories and videos it can create for you, I mean, it's priceless. All right, number 5 is lens compatibility and budget. Now, compatibility is important if you're using different camera models and different camera brands. So I am a Sony snob. I have only been shooting Sony. I went from the a6000 to the a6700. and I love them. I don't have any reason to switch. Now, my brother uses Canon. He also uses Sony cameras, so he has a bunch. Now, this might be more important to him. Compatibility, what I mean by that is, say you have a Canon, say you have a Sony. Well, if you're gonna buy a lens, it would be most cost efficient if you can get a lens that you want that work on both systems. I don't have to worry about that because I just use the Sony E-mount system, so most of my Sony lenses are just interchangeable, so I can go from the 18 to 135 and switch in a few seconds to the giant telephoto lens. So that's great. He can't necessarily do that because I'm better and quicker. I'm kidding, kind of. But I don't know the compatibility of Canon lenses to Sony lenses. I never really looked into it. Don't really care to because I don't have a Canon camera. Maybe I will one day, but for now, I'm sticking with the Sony models. Love the Sony Alphas. And that's something to definitely just keep in the back of your mind because a lens is usually a big purchase. Most of them aren't just, you know, a couple $100. They range from anywhere from, you know, in the high hundreds to the thousands, all the way up to the tens of thousands. So compatibility is definitely something to keep in the back of your head that isn't an initial thought when you're going to buy a lens. I am going to bring you over to the laptop, do a little screen recording over there so I can show you some lenses that I think are a good purchase. Probably going to show you the telephoto lens. I can give you a little more specs on it, some price ranges, and go from there. So let's head over there. Just went into bnhphotoandvideo.com here. This is where I primarily buy my items for camera related purchases. And this is the lens that I love, the Sony E-mount 18 to 135 millimeter with an f-stop of 3.5 to 5.6 OSS lens, and it's at $648. Key features, pause if you need that, but this is the one that I was showing you guys on my iPhone Pro Max. I really enjoy this lens and I use it for a lot, from capturing landscapes to if a bison's close enough to your car, you can capture it on this as well. So it's a great budget purchase because it's at $648, which really isn't over the top if you're looking to get a good start with a versatile lens. The 200 to 600 Sony E-mount lens. And I don't have the one with the filter kit. It's the same price as the one without it, which is weird, but whatever. It's $1,998, which for a telephoto lens, I consider value. I mean, these telephoto lenses can go way up in price. Here's some key features if you wanted to pause it right now to get any of that. But as far as the lens itself, for specs, the weight I was telling you, it is 4.65 pounds. So I was right, between 4 and 5. And then reviews, you have 352 reviews on B&H Photo at 5 stars and 49 reviews at 4 stars. So it's, the majority is really positive reviews, and then some images right here, and I'll show you some of mine after. A lot of people love it. My favorite lens, must-have lens. So definitely worth getting if you're considering getting into wildlife photography and videography. So yeah, there's that. Definitely consider it eventually, but it's not in my my order of purchases that are down the road. I need to get a new laptop because this 2017 Mac is just not cutting it anymore with the videos I want to create. It just lags constantly. That's another problem. We're talking camera lenses here. This guy right here is 100 to 400 millimeter, f4.5 to 5.6. It's the G Master, and it has a UV filter kit, which I don't necessarily need. So this is a kit with all those UV filters. So here we go. Well suited to outdoor nature and sports photographers. Bundles versatile telephoto zoom with a 77 millimeter UV filter. And videographers who are looking for a bit of extra reach with their full frame E-mount camera. So the G Master looks pretty sweet. It's one I've been eyeing. Has some great characteristics. Reviews has 234. with 197 of them being 5-star and 20 of them being 4 stars. And here are some shots with the G Master. So it's pretty sweet. It's one I want to get, but it's not one I'm going to have anytime soon. So, but that's one you might want to look into as well. And the price point on it was $2,398 without taxes. So another one to consider. That would be great for wildlife photography, but also at 100 millimeters, if like you saw that mountain landscape, if it's far enough away, you can get some pretty cool photos like that. I just had it. I don't know where it went, but anyway, you can go back to it. Those are some lenses and scenarios that you can consider when going to purchase a lens that you want, or you're getting your first camera if it doesn't come with a lens. So let's dive into some of my footage and some of my photos, and I'll do some voiceovers of why I chose that lens and how it performed. So these shots were all taken at different focal lengths with my 200 to 600 millimeter lens. I chose it because they're wildlife and you can capture much more in-depth detail, and they turned out really great. For these, I chose the 18 to 135 millimeter lens because they're landscapes and I wanted to capture as much of the scene as possible. This was footage taken with the Sony 200 to 600 millimeter lens. I wanted to include it so you could see the quality. I loved it. I loved using it. You just want to make sure you have it on a tripod so it's stabilized. Besides that, highly recommend it. So I'm not going to include any specific footage from the 18 to 135 millimeter lens, only because most of this video was taken on that lens, excluding this clip with Shaq on my iPhone, because I was picking up some noise on my camera and I just didn't want the audio to be terrible. So that's why it's not included. But the whole video was taken on it, and I thought the quality was great. So all in all, yeah, that's some thoughts on what to look for and think about when you're picking your camera lens. Cost, weight of the lens, are you backpacking, are you just going on a trip where you need it to be lightweight? Are you looking for macro where you want to capture the faces of insects? Are you looking for a telephoto lens to capture wildlife that you really shouldn't get close to, like brown bears and wolves? So these are all things to consider. Consider your budget as well. Having good glass is definitely worth it with a great lens. So I would almost argue pick up a new lens before picking up a new camera. But anyway, Shaq and I hope you enjoyed the video, and we look forward to next time. Don't forget to hit the like, it helps out the channel, and definitely don't forget to subscribe. Until next time.